We've got smooth locomotion and teleportation locomotion, which both can be prompted by just simply pointing your pointer finger forward. Our team worked super hard to get that possible. It's super, super fun to just go around Myst.
Hi, everyone. Ian Hamilton here with Hannah from Cyan World. Hannah, when did you first play Myst as a fan?
Oh, gosh. Well, as a fan, my family always were fans of Myst, even growing up. So the first time technically I played it was when I was just like a year old, sitting on my mom's lap, which is a long time. As an actual adult with learning comprehension abilities, probably, I want to say 10 years ago, something like that.
This most recent update, why don't you tell us what's in that update? Because I think it represents some of the features that people really wanted there at the start when you first launched Myst.
Yeah, we have a ton of new features in this update. The decrease in size of the app, so it went from 9.5 gigs to about 5.5 gigs in size, which is huge for people who have the smaller sized Quest and have to be very strategic on what they've installed on it. And additionally, we added Polish and Russian localization. And some of the bigger things that we added were the journal system, which allows for in-game screenshots to be made. And most importantly, my most fun thing about this patch was hand tracking. And our team worked super hard to get that possible. We've got smooth locomotion and teleportation locomotion, which both can be prompted by just simply pointing your pointer finger forward. That will initiate movement, or it'll initiate the teleport arc. And all you have to do to stop moving is stop pointing, which means pulling your finger back into a fist, or extending all of your other fingers as if you're going to grab something. And that will execute a teleport or cease movement in the case of smooth movement. We tried to make that pretty simple, and we felt that pointing was the most intuitive way to just say, hey, I want to go over there. What better way to do that than just point ahead? To turn in Myst, and this applies to smooth turning and snap turning as well. You could just hold out the non-dominant hand and put your hand into a thumbs up position. Turning it away from you turns right, turning it in toward you is turning left. There is not currently a hand tracking gesture supported for taking an in-game screenshot with the journal system, but we do hope to bring that to Myst soon. We started working on this before the beginning of this year technically, and we've just been slowly iterating on it, play testing for a while, figuring out what was comfortable for people. We went through some trials and tribulations with things that weren't comfortable, which of course takes time to test. For example, one of the initial methods that we thought for turning would be if you pointed your pointer finger out just like this, as if you're moving forward, but as if you were turning your wrist kind of in toward you and then out away from you. That's pretty uncomfortable, especially when it comes to the out away from you part. And that means that we had to iterate on, okay, even though maybe saying I want to go over there to turn might seem like the most intuitive way to turn, it just wasn't the most comfortable. So we spent a lot of time iterating on things like that. And I would say that the thing that kind of culminated into when we were most comfortable shipping the patch and feature support for it was when we dialed in most, if not all, of the gestures to be very comfortable to use for extended periods of time. And I'm talking about at least an hour or two of playtime, because people get lost in Myst, And additionally, we wanted to make sure that the journal feature and all of the other features that we were working on were working flawlessly. And that takes time, of course.
Our audience out there knows about the Myst golf course coming to Walkabout Mini Golf. And I've talked to the Walkabout Mini Golf devs a couple times, and they seem to be big fans of Myst. And the way it was described to me, it seems like Cyan is a big fan of Walkabout Mini Golf. And as someone who played Myst in the 90s and then played it again in VR, and knowing that difference of my brain is filling in with my imagination of what the world is of Myst back in the 90s. But now I'm actually visiting there in that solitary way here in the 2020s. And boom, 2 years later, we're going to be able to actually visit a version of Myst Island with friends. It's such a great example of what VR can accomplish, right? The very pinnacle in my head of being able to socialize and revisit things from your childhood with friends who are maybe far away, who maybe also have those memories. It's going to be a wildly cool thing to be able to go and do that and walk about mini golf. All our viewers out there are losing their minds over Labyrinth. Did you play the Labyrinth course yet?
No, not yet, but I've heard incredible things about it. I hope to this weekend for sure. It's super exciting for the Walkabout team.
And it just made me that much more excited for the Myst course coming down the line because of how well they executed the Labyrinth course there. And I asked Lucas over there whether the first hole begins at the dock. And he said it has to, right? It was one of their requirements. Are you conceiving new properties in VR or thinking of adaptations of old properties into VR or both?
The question the fans always want the answer to. Well, I can start with the new properties part. Firmament is the next game that we're currently working on, and it is a brand new IP, not related to the Myst universe, not related to Abduction universe, and that comes out with 2D and VR support at the end of this year, and that'll be really great, especially since it's the first new IP since Abduction. When it comes to old IP that we might turn into VR, not just Myst, no comment.
Do you expect people to play Myst in VR more with hand tracking over time than with controllers?
That is a good question. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like hand tracking does have some limitations on Quest right now. For example, within my camera's field of view on the Quest, and you can see my hands jumping around. It's no fault to this app by any means. There's just a very limited range of motion. And a lot of the time, people aren't framing their hand exactly in front of their field of view. So I think once those sorts of problems are solved and you can interact with things more just outside of your field of view, hand tracking will be more popular. When it comes to people playing hand tracking in Myst in particular, though, we've already gotten reviews and comments and feedback from people saying, like, I really enjoyed this experience, or here are some adjustments I think could be really valuable. So there are definitely people playing with hand tracking in Myst. Whether or not it outweighs people using motion controllers, personally, I doubt it at this point, just because I'm unsure if people could even... I feel like people see these sorts of issues where it cuts off at the field of view.
They do.
And they just get frustrated.
It never goes away. You can kind of train yourself to put your hands within those bounds, but it's kind of a constant reminder. It's always there.
Exactly. Yeah, you were very good at it, clearly. I haven't noticed any jitteriness with your hands, so you must be right.
I'm practicing, and I did try Myst seated, and I'm putting my hand down here and trying to point in a weird... And I'm always right at the bounds of what the tracking will allow. I keep thinking over... Myst is a generational game. It's a game that's going to stand as a landmark for many decades. I love it as an example of this game where you've just got a single frame a second, and then it was updated to real time. And now you can actually be there in VR. And all of that is only going to make it stand the test of time and have this place be somewhere people visit 20 years from now. And I think it's just funny to think of 15 years from now, people using only hand tracking to solve all the puzzles on Myst Island, as well as being able to go play mini golf on a theme park version of it. And old grandpa is saying that back in my day, I used to use this at 1 frame per minute on my old PC. But yeah,
I'm going to be that old grandma who's like, back in my day, I played golf on Myst Island.
Any teasers you can give us, or anything else we haven't talked about yet about what's next?
Yes, actually. I would love to tease a content update that we're considering doing. We are hoping to do a director's commentary update where we bring in some of the original developers on Myst, Rand, and some of the new developers for this version of Myst, and have them record some like thoughts and feelings about walking around the island. So you can experience that as you play Myst as well. And additionally, something that's been highly requested for a long time from people with this new version of Myst has been, where's node mode? I want to play Myst as if it was like the classic edition where I point and click to exactly the node I want to go to. We're hoping to include that as well in a future update. So this is by no means the end of updates for Myst.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Mhm.
so much for the time. This update is unexpected. There aren't a lot of games where you can play the entire game with hand tracking.
Mhm.
And there is a notice right at the front of the update that hand tracking isn't as precise as controllers right now.
Right.
So
Mhm.
people know what you're getting into or what to expect right from the start of this.
Mhm.
But yeah, thank you so much for the time. And hopefully we'll get to play on Mist Island together, mini golf at some point this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be so fun.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the future.